Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Madison. My name is Ros Woodward, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm a member of this congregation, and I volunteer as a worship associate, helping our ministers to lead services. Today, I'm joined by one of our co-senior ministers, Reverend Asprooth-Jackson, Melissa Adams, and Stephen Gregorius. Thank you to our guest musician, Sue Hogg, for contributing your time and talent to worship today. And thank you to all those volunteering this morning. Our greeters are Renee Uhardy and Anne Smiley. Our ushers are Gail Bliss, Alyssa Ryan-Joy, and Connie Beam. And our coffee and hospitality are Alice Delaquest, Barb Avery, and Amy Ganaway. There's one special announcement. Cheryl is looking for a planning team for Valentine Jazz Soiree, the 2026 version, and will be in the Commons after the service for anybody that would like to help her plan that event. At First Unitarian Society, we question boldly, listen humbly, grow spiritually, act courageously, and love unapologetically. If you're visiting us today, welcome. We're so glad to see you with us. If you'd like more information about the First Unitarian Society, please stop by the welcome table, which is located just to my left in the Commons. We hope you'll be able to stay and join us for coffee hour immediately after the service, also in the Commons. For those connecting with us virtually today, we're glad you're with us as well. And we hope that you'll be able to take a moment to watch the announcement slides after today's service to learn about upcoming programs and activities. And a word about what's going on in front of just me where I'm standing. As you entered the auditorium today, you hopefully saw the offerings of a piece of paper on which you could write down whatever thought, feeling, or experiences you wish to let go of from the year now past. And I hope somebody was able to get those pens to open, because I tried 3 and I couldn't. If you don't yet have one, there's still lots of time to pick one up during or just after the service. For those of you at home with something you're needing to release, I encourage you to write it down on your own piece of paper. You can dispose of it in your own way. Just please be sure to be careful and make sure there's a grown-up involved if you're going to use any fire. Anyone between now and the end of the service, you're invited to deposit your piece of paper in the jar provided right there. Immediately after the service, Reverend Kelly will be taking that jar outside to the courtyard of the classrooms A and B to ceremoniously burn away all those things that you need to let go of. And if you'd like to join him outside to witness or help with the burning, you're more than welcome. And now I invite you to join me in a moment of silence to center ourselves and bring ourselves fully into this time as we join together once again in community.
As we come together, let us pause to take stock of the year now concluding. Its moments of happiness and hurt, its times of accomplishment and failure, and its occasions of inspiration and fear.
We add these experiences to the tapestries of our years and look bravely towards a new horizon.
Come into this place now with your whole self, the parts that are raw and exposed, the part that is beaming with joy, the part that is seeking the truth, the new, the possibility.
Come into this place, open your heart, lay down your burdens, lift up your hope for something new to happen.
Come into this place with fellow travelers on the journey, some faces new, others familiar, and all welcoming you here, now, to this moment. Come, let us worship together. And now I invite you to rise in all the ways that we do, and to join together in the words of aspiration for the kindling of our chalice. This fire reminds us of our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, and the fuel that allows it to burn, the foundation of all that we celebrate in our past and in our present is love. And now I invite you to reach out to those around you and greet each other with signs of love and peace.
Please join us in singing in the Teal hymnal, our opening hymn, number 1000. Morning has come.
Today, I have a story for you that has just two characters in it. They are Musa and Naguib. A story from the Muslim world. So Musa and Naguib were very good friends. They knew each other very well. They were very much alike, very similar people. And they traveled together as tradesmen. Here and there, buying things in one place, taking to another place, and selling them hopefully arranging things so that people who lived in different places got access to things that they needed but didn't have, and also so that they made a profit on it as well. And on one of these trade journeys, they were crossing over the mountains of what is today Iran. And on the course of their path together, although they were, as I said, very good friends and very, very similar people, they got into a disagreement when they came to a place where there was a river at one point, but it was a time of year where there was no river right then. They got into a disagreement about what they should do in the next stage of their journey. Should they continue around the usual path, or should they make use of the opportunity of this bare riverbed to maybe take a shortcut? And they disagreed about this rather fervently, and so intensely, and so deeply that eventually Naguib hauled off and slapped Musa right in the face. Very upsetting, very painful, very bad. You should not do that to your friend. I do not recommend it. Now, Musa might have turned right around and returned the insult. But he did have enough possession of himself to pause for just an instant, just long enough to restrain that impulse. In part because he knew his own heart. He knew how similar he and Naguib were, and he recognized within himself that he had been only a mere second or two from doing exactly the same thing to Naguib. And so he was ashamed of what he almost did but did not do. So they went apart for a little while. And while Musa was apart from Naguib, he took a stick and he wrote into the sand, "Today, my best friend slapped me in the face." While he was doing this, Naguib came back to Musa, found him, and sought to make amends. He apologized for what he'd done. He recognized the wrong of it. He wished to make peace with his friend. And so there was an accord between them with some tension and some sorrow. Now they set out further on their journey. They reached their destination. They sold some things. They bought some things. And they made the return journey back the same direction they had come before, back over the mountains. And now when they came to that place where the river had been dry before, it was a different season. And the water was about waist high. And they went back and forth a little bit, delicately this time, in discussing what they would do, and decided mutually that they would cross it together. And they were wading in the river when Musa lost his footing, and he slipped, and he was about to be pulled under by the current and taken who knows where. But Naguib shot out his arm at just the last second. He grabbed hold of Musa's hand. Together they managed to struggle back out of the water, and Musa was all right. And once he was safely on dry land again, he went in his pack and he took out a stone chisel. And he went to a rock face on one of the mountains they were crossing over, and he carved in, this took a lot more time than the writing with the stick, he carved in, "Today, my friend saved my life." Naguib saw what he had done, and he asked, "Musa, when I hit you, you wrote about it in the sand. When I stopped you from being pulled away by the river, you wrote about it on stone. What is the reason for this difference?" And Musa said, "Well, I would like to treat the wrongs that are done to me as though they were written in sand. Things that could be forgiven, things that could be overcome, things that could be let go of, at least eventually. But I would also like to treat the good things that are done for me, the good turns that I receive in life, as things that are written in stone. Things that I will always remember and hold on to, take responsibility for, wish to return the favor to the same person or to another person in the future." This is an aspiration, friends. We cannot necessarily do this with all of the good things and all of the bad things that happen to us in our life. But if we take some lesson from the story of Musa and Nagib, we can do our best to write what deserves to be written in sand, and write what deserves to be written in stone. Thank you for listening to my story.
Now please rise in body and or spirit, where Sue is going to play through the first verse for us because this is a toughie. But please rise and join us. We will sing together number 9, No Longer Forward Nor Behind.
Our words of inspiration today are written by Wendell Berry. It's hard to have hope. It's harder as you grow old, for hope must not depend on feeling good. And there's the dream of loneliness at absolute midnight. You also have withdrawn belief in the present reality of the future, which surely will surprise us. And hope is harder when it cannot come by prediction any more than by wishing. But stop dithering. The young ask the old to hope. What will you tell them? Tell them at least what you say to yourself. Because we've not made our lives to fit our places. The forests are ruined, the fields eroded, the streams polluted, the mountains overturned. Hope then to belong to your place by your own knowledge of what it is that no other place is, and by your caring for it as you care for no other place. This place that you belong to, though, is not yours, for it was from the beginning, and it will be to the end. Belong to your place by the knowledge of the others who are your neighbors in it. The old man, sick and poor, who comes like a heron to fish in the creek, and the fish in the creek, and the heron who, man-like, fishes for the fish in the creek, and the birds who sing in the trees in the silence of the fisherman and the heron, and the trees that keep the land they stand on, as we too must keep it, or die. This knowledge cannot be taken from you by power or by wealth. It will stop your ears to the powerful when they ask for your faith, and to the wealthy when they ask for your land and your work. Answer with knowledge of the others who are here and how to be here with them. By this knowledge, make the sense you need to make. By it, stand in the dignity of good sense, whatever may follow. Speak to your fellow humans as your place has taught you to speak, as it has spoken to you. Speak its dialect as your old compatriots spoke it before they heard a radio. Speak publicly what cannot be taught or learned in public. Listen privately, silently, to the voices that rise up from the pages of books and from your own heart. Be still and listen to the voices that belong to the stream banks and the trees and the open fields. There are songs and sayings that belong to this place, by which it speaks for itself and no other. Find your hope, then, on the ground under your feet. Your hope of heaven, let it rest on the ground underfoot. Be it lighted by the light that falls freely upon it after the darkness of the nights and the darkness of our ignorance and madness. Let it be lighted also by the light that is within you, which is the light of imagination. By it you see the likeness of people in other places to yourself in that place. It lights invariably the need for care toward other people, other creatures, in other places, as you would ask them to care towards your place and you. No place at last is better than the world. The world is no better than its places. Its places at last are no better than their people while their people continue in them. When the people make dark, the light is within them. The world darkens.
Many of you have heard me relate before stories about Nasruddin, the Sufi Muslim mystic of the 13th century. In one of the shorter tales that is associated with him, a neighbor once saw the man spooning out yogurt into a local lake. Well accustomed to seeing Nasruddin doing strange and inexplicable things, the neighbor asked what he was trying to do. Nasruddin explained that he was trying to turn the entire lake into yogurt. Such a feat would create an abundant supply of food for the poor and do a great service to the community. The neighbor was staggered by the impracticality of this and began to list to Nasruddin all the reasons that his plan could not work. Adding yogurt to milk can create more yogurt, but the same principle does not apply to water. And in any case, a few spoonfuls worth of yogurt could never transform an entire lake, even if it were a lake of milk to begin with. "I'm sorry, friend Nasruddin," the neighbor said. "Your entire idea is impossible." "Oh, I know," Nasruddin replied. "It's entirely impossible, just as you say. But if it could be done, imagine how wonderful it would be." Today is one of the last days of an old year which is ending, and just a few days away from a new year about to begin. So at this time of transition, of endings and beginnings, I want to talk with you about hope. And I wanted to start with this story about Nasruddin because sometimes exhortations to hope can sound a lot like the end of that story. setting aside entirely things as they are, ignoring the possible or the practical, simply proposing a circumstance which is divorced from reality, and if confronted by its literal impossibility, just shrugging and saying, "Yeah, yes, but wouldn't it be great if it could be true?" Actual hope, the sort that can prove lasting and nourishing in the face of life's struggles and losses, has to be something more than an abstract, detached optimism. The writer, teacher, and Episcopal priest Cynthia Borgault says that hope's home is at the innermost point in us and in all things. It is a quality of aliveness. It does not come at the end as the feeling that results from a happy outcome. Rather, it lies at the beginning as a pulse of truth that sends us forth. When our innermost being is attuned to this pulse, it will send us forth in hope, regardless of the physical circumstances of our lives. Hope that is based entirely on optimism, even a practical optimism that can make a credible argument for a real chance of success, still depends on the future. Its rightness can be proven or disproven, at least after the fact, simply by waiting to see the outcome of events. And given how chaotic and unpredictable the events in our world are, the conclusion reached over a long enough time, spent hoping for specific outcomes and then watching to see if they come to pass, is unlikely to be a positive one, supportive of future choices and struggles. But a hope that is grounded in how we approach the present, rather than what we expect from the future, is more durable and ultimately more likely to carry us into that future, whatever it may hold. An example. The Silk Road was a historic trade route for overland caravans, connecting the economies of places as far apart as the Korean peninsula in the east and the Iberian Peninsula, where Spain and Portugal are today, in the west. For well more than 1,000 years, it allowed goods and technology and ideas to flow across Europe and North Africa and Asia. It was arguably the single most important pathway in human history. When we think of the Silk Road here in the West, probably the single figure that most likely comes to mind is Marco Polo, a European merchant and traveler who crossed that trade route, or at least wrote a book saying that he did, around 800-ish years ago. But the Silk Road began with an entirely different traveler, an explorer and diplomat from China named Zhang Qian, about 1,400 years before Marco Polo. Zhang Qian was sent on a mission by the Emperor of China to travel west across the Taklamakan Desert in Central Asia in order to form an alliance with whatever people they had a rough sense lived somewhere in that general direction. See, China was at war with an extremely powerful nation to its north, the Xiongnu, ancestors to modern Mongolia. And the emperor was looking for any allies that he could find. Zhang Qian made it into the desert, but he ran out of supplies. He probably wouldn't have survived except that he had the additional misfortune to be captured by the Xiongnu, who didn't look kindly on his mission to form a military coalition against them. He spent 13 years as their prisoner. But during that time, he managed to earn the trust of the local community and finally found a way to escape. But he did not turn around and go back home. He kept on going west to complete his original mission. And he eventually found the people that he had been looking for. He spent a year traveling around and drafting a grand report on the nations of Central Asia and what are today Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Afghanistan, and writing down anything the people who lived there could tell him about places that were even further from his home, modern-day India, Pakistan, Iran, and Iraq. Then he went home and was captured again by the Xiongnu. Though he'd escaped once, they respected his tenacity and his sense of duty, so they allowed him to live, but again as their prisoner. Another 2 years he lived like that before escaping one last time. Zhang Qian returned to the emperor after more than 16 years away. He reported that the people he had been sent to find had very little interest in forging a military alliance. But they did have many unique and useful things that would be valuable to trade for. The trade exchanges he made possible eventually developed into the Silk Road. Zhang Qian had no reasonable expectation of this outcome at the start or throughout the rest of his grand adventure. In fact, it was not the point of the work that he set out to do at all. But with determination and with luck, he persisted in his mission. He did what he could, where and when he could. And the entire course of history was changed by that. The French author Albert Camus, after experiencing the horrors of the Second World War, made a return visit to a place called Tipasa, a set of Roman ruins on the Algerian coast where he had made formative memories in his childhood. On that visit, he was disappointed. The place was not as he remembered it, and he was no longer the boy who had played there many years before. He could not recapture the experience that he longed for. But some years later, he made a second return trip to Tipasa. And on that occasion, he looked at the place as it was, not simply searching for what had been. And he tried to see it with his own eyes, not the former eyes of his youth that he no longer had. What he found in doing so was a wonder and a love for the place that ironically did actually echo his feelings from childhood. But instead of trying to force himself to feel exactly what he felt, he set out to feel something new. And he found that feeling to resonate with his own boyhood emotions. He wrote about the experience of marveling afresh at this beautiful place, saying, "It satisfied the two thirsts one cannot long neglect without drying up. I mean, loving and admiring. For there is merely bad luck in not being loved. There is misfortune in not loving." All of us today are dying of this misfortune. One must keep intact in oneself a freshness, a cool wellspring of joy. Love the day that escapes injustice and return to combat having won that light. Reflecting further, Camus found that there was a through line that he had missed on that previous visit. He had wanted reality to simply match his memory before. Now he accepted the differences between the two. He held reverence and appreciation for both the place of the past and the new place of the present. Camus continued, saying, "Here, I recaptured the former beauty, a young sky, and I measured my luck. realizing at last that in the worst years of our madness, the memory of that sky had never left me. This was what, in the end, had kept me from despairing. I had always known that the ruins of Tipasa were younger than our new constructions or our bomb damage. There, the world began over again every day in an ever new light. Oh, light. This is the cry of all the characters of ancient drama brought face to face with their fate. This last resort was ours too, and I knew it now. In the middle of winter, I at last discovered that there was in me an invincible summer. And now he had two such memories to carry with him, to offer him direction, strength, hope, to endure all the vicissitudes of life. As he put it, the memory of that day still uplifts me and helps me to welcome equally what delights and what crushes. Now, here is a crucial, vital contradiction. The German Reformed theologian Jürgen Moltmann, who died last year, observed that faith, wherever it develops into hope, causes not rest but unrest, not patience but impatience. It does not calm the unquiet heart, but it itself is this unquiet heart in all of us. Those who hope can no longer put up with reality as it is, but begin to suffer under it, to contradict it. True hope means conflict with the world, for the goal of the promised future stabs inexorably into the flesh of every unfulfilled present. I square this with Camus' Invincible summer, drawn from loving the world, not from conflict with it. By that, what we love of what is will always change, because the world is always changing, and the uplifting memory we carry with us of our wonder and the love that it engenders in us for people, places, moments in time, this collides with things as they are, as events unfold and inevitably change. I believe the deep calm, the cool wellspring of joy Camus describes is the same unquiet heart Moltmann points to. Hope, in its best function, alternates us between these two modes, holding fast to what is precious, such that we also demand the fulfillment of the present moment. The story goes that once there was a Buddhist monk who had a perpetually sour disposition. Whatever joy or hope someone pointed out to him, the monk would always find a shadow side to look on. There was no happiness he could not thwart in others and especially in himself. This was all the more sorrowful because the monk spent his days making things of great beauty. As a meditative practice, it is common in some schools of Buddhism, especially in Tibet, to make mandalas out of sand. These are great circular representations of the cosmos and the Buddhist understanding of the way that the spiritual universe operates in a great wheel. Monks, such as this resolutely unhappy soul, paint these images in very fine detail by carefully assembling these tiny components, literal grains of sand, to make a massive picture. One day, the sour monk was working on his mandala when he saw a mouse scurry over to some of the components that were waiting to be arranged. He watched the mouse crawl over the grains of sand, which might have filled its belly, and instead grasp at a small gem, which despite its size was still too heavy for the mouse to drag away. When the mouse gave up and went off, the monk nodded with his same unhappy expression. "See how foolish all beings are," he said, clutching at what they cannot have and ignoring that which they might actually do them some good. But a moment later, the mouse returned, this time with another mouse. And together, they went straight for that same gem. They took hold of it, and they managed to haul it away. Seeing this, the corners of the monk's mouth began to curl. Then a smile broke out on his face, and finally he began to laugh. The tenacity and determination of these two mice stirred up joy in him for the first time in a very long time. Spontaneously, he uttered a prayer. "May all creatures, large and small, near and far, have whatever they truly want." My friends, as we collectively leave one year behind and set out into another, may you hold dearly to whatever fragment of invincible summer is with you from these last 12 months. Whatever former beauty is yours to honor and to carry forward. And may that beauty nourish your impatience for a finer world in which such beauty has greater opportunity to flourish and to propagate. Just as active yogurt will propagate as it is added to milk, even if not necessarily to lake water.
I invite you into this time of giving and receiving, where we give freely and generously to this offering, which supports the ideals we cherish. Our gifts from this and all of our holiday services, beginning on solstice weekend and ending at today's services, provides a great deal of funding that runs Just Dane's eviction prevention program. Sometimes the difference between a family being out on the streets or staying in their home can be a little help with the rent. With your help, Just Dane and Joining Forces for Families are helping people to prevent eviction and homelessness. There are multiple ways to share your gifts. Baskets will be passed here in the auditorium for cash or checks, or you can donate directly from our website, fusmadison.org. And you'll see on the screen our text to give information. We thank you for your generosity and your faith in this life we create together.
Each week we gather, bringing with us the joys and losses of our days. We share these here, knowing they are held in love, in care, and in support. We light one candle to remember Sparrow and Al Senti on what would have been their 79th wedding anniversary. We light a candle for all of those who feel isolated by grief, by chronic pain, by mental illness, and all others who are alone and lonely. To you we extend our compassionate hearts. We light a candle of ongoing lament for the violence which plagues our world. Fervently we yearn for peace here at home and around the globe. And we light a candle for all that lives in our hearts, the joys, the losses, the sorrow, and the celebration, and for the love that remains through it all. If you will join me now in a moment of prayer and contemplation with these words from Michelle Collins. Spirit of life, we come carrying the burden of our own discouragements, the job that didn't work out, the relationship that ended, the dream deferred once again. Some mornings it feels easier to stay in bed than to face another day of uncertainty. Yet, here we are, gathered in this place that reminds us hope is not a feeling we wait for, but a choice we make. Hold gently those among us who struggle to find reasons for hope, whose depression whispers lies about their worth, whose anxiety paints tomorrow in fearful colors. Grant us patience with our own healing and compassion for our stumbling toward wholeness. May we learn that hope is not the absence of struggle, but the decision to keep walking through it. Help us remember that even our smallest steps forward matter, that courage comes not from feeling brave, but from acting despite our fear. May we find hope in unexpected places, in the kindness of strangers, in our own capacity to survive, in this community that holds us when we cannot hold ourselves. Amen.
There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding us. We rest in this love. Please rise in body and/or spirit and sing together hymn number 240. I heard the bells on Christmas Day. I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat of peace.
After the close of the service, I will be taking this collection of things that you are ready to let go of out to the courtyard, just that direction through classroom A, where they will be ceremonially burned. You are welcome to join me if you would like to take part in the closing ritual. For now, hear these words of benediction from Tandy Rogers. May you choose hope, even when it trembles. May it be the kind of hope that plants seeds, waits in the dark, and trusts the stirring. Hope that doesn't deny despair, but dares to outlast it. Blessed be. Go in peace, and please be at rest for the postlude.